Here with Concordia head baseball coach Ryan Dupic to preview the 2020 season that is quickly approaching as we sit down today. First, I wanted to start a little bit with the seniors on this team that have been a part of a couple conference championships and playing at the national tournament 2 times. How has that run over the past few years kind of transformed the attitude of the program and what everyone feels like is possible to achieve?
Yeah, I think I sense there's high expectations for sure. I think once you are able to experience some success, I think the players certainly want to continue to not only have the success they've had, but to try to keep growing from that. So, but I think there's a lot of trust amongst each other, just in terms of they feel like, hey, we've got a process here that works okay, and we just got to keep trying to grow on that and improve. But I think the main thing is there's high expectations, and guys really want to continue to try to accomplish great things.
So if all goes as planned, I guess this season will get started a little bit earlier maybe than most, a little earlier in February. Is there a strategy or a thought behind that?
Yeah, and just necessity. Our academic calendar changed, so we weren't able to do the spring. The spring trip is such a huge trip for our program to be able to play so many games and learn so much about your team. And our academic schedule moving back a week, really affects our ability to get our games in. So we had to shorten that week because of getting back for GPAC conference games. So we have to try to play a little bit earlier this year to try to get some games in. We're going to hope for some good weather in February. We'll see how it goes. But, it's just kind of a 50-50, I guess, based on the weekend.
Are there some areas maybe you feel like you've made some progress since May of last year when the season came to an end?
Yeah, I like our depth within our position players. I think we have a lot of options, a lot of guys that can play a variety of different spots and do some different things offensively. I think that's been really encouraging. That's probably the main really growth area we've seen is just through some new players in our program and also guys continuing to grow and improve. I think there's more options and more opportunities there. I think there's some good and some bad to that. We're going to have to really try to figure out what's our best lineup. That's going to take some time to figure out. It's not something I'm really pressing into so much right now. I just try to get some guys some opportunities early in the year and continue to learn about our team.
From a pitching standpoint, ERA in conference games was pretty impressive last year. How do you like about maybe the way that group is going about things this offseason and trying to even build upon what was accomplished last year?
Yeah, it's a lot of guys that I think the thing I'm really pleased with on them is as we sit here this day, that they're just making really good decisions. They're using their experience to understand what they need to do and what they need to work on. I think on paper that staff is pretty accomplished. I think we're working through challenges. Everybody has challenges. Jake Foskett and trying to get him healthy, and Nick Little trying to get him healthy, and so there's a lot of challenges that from the outside in you don't always get to see, but I'm really pleased with just their attitude, their focus, the way they make choices and try to challenge themselves daily at practice. The routines are developing. It's been really good so far. So we trust that we're going to see some fruit from that on the backside of all this.
I think we brought it up in the fall too about Thomas Sottle, who is back from injury last year. What's the update maybe on how he's progressing? He was certainly a big part of the team a couple of years ago before he had the injury.
Yeah, he looks great. He had a good fall. We've moved him to second base, so he's playing some second base. He'll still flip over at third sometimes, like we talked about with some positional flexibility there, but he looks sharp. He's on top of things. He's been really good in practice. I expect he's going to have a really big season for us. He's a terrific kid. He's exceptionally accountable. I don't spend 1 second wondering about what he's doing. He's always on top of things, and just a great kid.
Well, obviously he'll be maybe part of the solution in the middle of the infield. how is that coming along, having to replace the 2 starters at those spots from last year?
Yeah, having Thomas, who has some flexibility, is certainly a good thing. We brought in a couple new guys, and also have some returners. Carson Lindell's a returner who is was in the mix and played some for us on that last year. Jay Adams and Jose Ceballos are 2 freshmen that have done a good job. Both had good falls and have some good athleticism, bring a variety of different things to the table. And we have some other guys too that are new with that. I think we have more depth there. I think that's kind of a classic spot what we talked about in terms of we just have to figure out on a consistent basis where our best option is going to be. And I also think there's some guys there that have the type of flexibility to move to other spots to continue to really maximize our lineup and maximize ourselves defensively. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, but I think we have some options and looking forward to seeing how those guys perform.
Well, another guy I think you're pretty confident in and don't have to worry about is someone like Wade Council. And talking to him, he was saying how even his dad told him through the recruiting process, if you go to Concordia, I think you can win there with the way things are going there. But how important has he been to this program and what we've seen over the past few years?
Yeah, it's tough to quantify. He's obviously a good player, but he's just a great kid. He's very steady. He has a big heart, the way he cares for teammates. He's that guy that just has a great degree of trust amongst his teammates. They trust him. He's somebody they go to. It's hard to quantify. He's a terrific kid, and just so thankful he's been in our program. I'm looking forward to great things out of him, and I think he's going to have a big senior season.
And another returning hitter I wanted to touch on is Jesse Garcia, who was all conference as a freshman. He's someone who seems to have a lot of power potential, but what are we seeing from year 1 to year 2 for him?
Yeah, the thing I appreciate about Jesse is he's always getting better. He's always growing. We had a guy come in and speak to our team, last week about some mental skills stuff. Jesse's a guy that writes 3 to 4 pages of notes out of something like that. He's always trying to improve. He gets tons of swings in. He's just a guy that loves to play. He loves to compete, and he always wants to try to improve. And he does that in the classroom. He does it athletically. He looks sharp. We're really looking forward to it. I think he had an excellent season last year, and I still think there's other things he can continue to grow and evolve as a hitter and as a player. And I'm certainly thankful to have him.
I know the both of the times you've been able to make it to nationals, you've been able to pick up a win at the national tournament. What have you noticed maybe about what it takes to be able to compete once you get to that level?
Yeah, I think better lineup depth and the ability to drive the baseball better is a gap for us. At least a year ago, when we kind of looked at some of the comparisons, we were somewhat similar in some of the pitching categories. Of course, we had a really good staff last year, so we'll have to work really hard to get back to that point this year. But offensively, the teams that were elite at that level drove the baseball better than we did. Their slugging percentage was much higher. They executed their swing at a much higher level. So I think that's where the biggest gap is for us, just offensively. But I also again hit on that was the best pitching staff we've had since we've been here. So our ability to get back to that point is going to be a significant challenge with the graduation of some really impactful guys and certain guys working through some injury challenges. We're going to have a lot of work to do to be able to get to that point from a staff perspective as well. So I think at the end of the day, the best teams there, they have a couple guys at the front of the rotation that are really, really good. They're dominant type arms. And then they've got some guys that really, really scare you offensively and have at least really no outs in the lineup. There's guys that challenge you up and down the lineup.
Well, last year was the first year for Jamestown in the GPAC, and they've been known as a very quality program for several years now. And they came in as the favorite right away, and so the conference got tougher. You were able to still win it. What does that say about the level of your program?
Well, I think it just says our guys have done a tremendous job of continuing to build our program in a variety of ways. both in terms of just the family aspect and continue to grow and improve. I think it says that we've been blessed to have a lot of people who work together to accomplish great things. I think the league is getting better. There's a lot of really, really good teams. I think it's one of those things where we've been through this before, where we've won the league and come back the next season. There's high expectations, and we obviously have learned that every single thing that that you get at the beginning of the season, whatever prediction, whatever, truly doesn't mean anything. You're still going to have to go perform. There's a ton of things we have to get better at, and we just have to kind of keep our focus where our feet are and keep trying to grow and improve.
Last thing along those lines, and I think you brought it up, is there haven't been many teams to repeat conference championships in the GPAC. I think it's been at least 15 years since someone's done that. Do you maybe put that out in front of your team as a little carrot that maybe that does really set your program apart if you're able to do something like that?
Yeah, we absolutely do. We've talked about it. I think there's a tendency to sort of, once you do that, you can have a tendency to take it for granted and just assume that's kind of a common human behavior, just assume that that's going to happen again. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's easy to see based on what you're talking about there. I think statistically speaking, through the GPAC, at least over the last 10 to 15 years, if you get picked to win the league, you're more likely to miss the conference tournament than you are to actually go back and win it again. So, I think it's definitely something that is just kind of there's a tendency there to assume that. So we've talked about that as a team. I try not to hit on that stuff too much. We just want to keep growing and getting better. But the one thing is we just can't assume anything. You just have to go play. And you got to continue to find joy in really each aspect and each growth step. I think the ability to do things really well multiple times is one of the signs of a really effective program. And so hopefully we can continue to do that. I have absolutely no doubts that if we're able to do something like that, it's going to be really hard. There's a ton of good teams. They're all working exceptionally hard. There's good coaches. There's good players. We just have to go do the best we can and continue to see how that fits with everybody else.